Hello, everyone. My name's David Duncan. I'm coming to you from the Hill Country, north of Austin, Texas. I'm a partner solutions architect for Amazon Web Services, and I'm glad to be here with you at SUSECON virtual conference this year.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you here. I'm really looking forward to having a conversation with you today here at SUSECON Virtual 2020 and hope that we can get connected in many different ways. I'm Dunk pretty much everywhere, IRC and on Twitter. You can find me as well as just sending me an email directly. So let's get started. So there are a lot of ways that customers come to the decision that they want to move some of their all or some of their workload onto AWS. And we've seen a lot of examples of customers doing that. I had a lot of experience with customers who want to move their SAP workloads onto AWS today. And along with APN partners like SUSE, AWS has been helping customers get more from their SAP investments for years. And over time, a lot of common business drivers for why customers engage with AWS around their SAP needs have emerged. Here's a few of what I think are compelling reasons that people get in touch with us. So first off is cost reduction. This is the most common reason that we see for SAP customers. We see anywhere from as little as 20% to well over 50% SAP TCO reduction from SAP to AWS. And customers like Sumitomo Chemical reduce their processing times by 40%, or customers like Heineken, where they estimate that their 42 terabyte systems on AWS are half the cost of the 6 terabyte system that they used to have on premises. We also see customers who are moving to digital enterprises, which sometimes includes considerations of SAP S4. And typically, customers running S4 on AWS see improved systems and application performance and leverage native AWS services to get more from SAP investments. Examples of customers running SAP S4 on AWS include Louisiana Pacific, reporting a 20% performance improvement after moving to S4 on AWS. EDF Energy, where they reported faster processing times, and Contact Energy also reported faster performance on AWS. Companies like Delivery Hero saw application jobs go from 4 hours down to 30 minutes. And other businesses like Jazz Pharmaceuticals run S4 HANA in highly regulated environments on, on AWS. Another very common business driver where customer and partner IT organizations are using AWS along with SLES for SAP applications as their innovation platform of choice is agility and staff productivity. SAP customers typically report benefits like faster time to market and increased speed of innovation as their staff becomes significantly more productive, usually leveraging automation techniques. And some of those automation techniques that they're using are coming from um, Amazon APN quick starts. So we have a partner solution quick start that you can use to deploy SLES for SAP and S for HANA on top of that SLES for SAP in a very short amount of time. And in fact, I think it was Brooks Brothers who say that using the AWS automation, they can dramatically improve their DevOps efficiency. And customers like Energy is seeing as much as 90% faster transaction processing time since moving to AWS. Brooks Brothers reported going from weeks to minutes to get an SAP system deployed. Um, Customers also report improved uptime and fewer unplanned outages after moving to AWS. Um, they're leveraging things like disaster recovery systems across regions. And within the context of a single region, they're using concepts around availability zones and the use of availability zones to leverage partner technologies like the HA clustering technology you see in SLES for SAP applications today to create clustered configurations for S4HANA. SECO shaves the time to complete their disaster recovery from over a week down to less than a day. Uh, and then Compass Group reported that they were targeting a 4-hour RTO, and their actual um, restore time option, they achieved 2-hour target as opposed to 4, which is pretty interesting. We also see a lot of customers who have data center resources that they don't necessarily want to renew. So it can be all the way down to just like a single host, or it can be as complex as a data center, and it can be even more complex where we have customers who decide that they are all in on AWS, and they determine that they want to move um, thousands of systems out of multiple data centers all at the same time. So we can look at some of the examples of that where like Capgemini did a large scale migration with Louisiana Pacific, where they migrated over 70 SAP environments in 4 months. AIG moved off of IBM DB2 and onto HANA and on AWS, and they reported that they improved their performance by 40%. Swire Coca-Cola is all in on AWS, and they've closed 3 data centers with more than 600 business applications and nearly zero impact to their business. British Petroleum is in the same place. They're all in on AWS with 3,000 applications and 7,000 servers, including over 65 complex SAP environments migrated to AWS. So a lot of customers struggle to maximize the data they need to gather and analyze, and the data is sometimes trapped across multiple systems or spread around a collage of their own systems and their partner systems, and as a result, it's not accessed. Even though it's easy to acquire the data, it's low risk to manage um, and to store the data. It's stored in such a way that it's impossible for the consumers to really reach it in a consistent or possibly a secure model. So we see a lot of customers who are using AWS data lakes along with SAP um, and other systems as a low-cost aggregation strategy. And then they use other AWS services like Redshift, or they use their own SAP, or they use SAP again and other third-party analytics offerings to run their businesses with better real-time insights. Customers doing this today are customers like Karma Automotive, where they're using the AWS data lake as a part of their connected car strategy, or Swire Coca-Cola, where they're using AWS S3 for storage along with the AWS Redshift with SAP on AWS. And some customers start out looking for improved performance. And then what they find is that in improving the performance of the systems, optimizing the performance of the systems that they have in practice today, um, they find out that their business processes are even faster on AWS after the fact. So we see customers actively looking to run SAP on AWS to take advantage of autoscaling to avoid costly outages during peak times that may be brought on by not having the opportunity to scale in their current infrastructure. So customers who've reported uh, um, faster business processes are customers like Union Medical Healthcare, where they report the quarterly reports are 50% faster after deploying SAP S/4HANA Finance on AWS. Delivery Hero says that they're now closing the monthly retail books in 90 minutes, down from 20 hours. And SECO says they saw an overall performance increase by 90%, and they're now closing their monthly books 75% faster. And then beyond these solution reasons for creating a migration and the improvements that you can get from moving to AWS, this has given customers a way of using AWS to create unique lines of business or industry capability. And very often this is a combination of the SAP functional capabilities that they brought with them, along with the combined functionality of the AWS services. They use these to provide customers with unique capabilities, and there are a lot of customers innovating in the space like that. One of them I thought was really, in particular, interesting is Gulfmark, where they're using AWS for real-time video cargo tracking, and they tie that back into SAP for their shipping logistics. Karma Automotive, again, is doing the same thing. They're leveraging both SAP S4 and AWS to innovate with their connected car strategy. So for many, many years, more than a decade, we've been working with SUSE to build SLES for SAP, and we've been working with SAP to run those components on AWS. So in 2012, there was the release of the NEDB, and we had hundreds of customers who were running SAP on any database on AWS, and many of them chose to run on SLES for SAP. In 2016, we really saw adoption take off, and we released the AWS X1 instance in an effort to ensure that customers were getting what they needed. And these were the only HANA offerings certified for 2 terabyte scale up, 15 terabyte scale out at the time, and customers really liked them. SLES for SAP applications was actively in use by many of these early adopters of this offering. SLES supported these instance types on day 0 because we worked in lockstep to ensure mutual success for everyone included, including customers. And there was a lot of interesting components to that solution. I could talk about it a lot more offline, um, but in the interest of time, we'll continue forward. So uh, we continue. So many innovations continue to happen, and in 2018, uh, well, maybe 2017, the X1E uh, was released, and there was the capability of 4 terabyte scale up, 50 terabyte scale out launch. The X1E instances accommodate over 95% of SAP customers today. And uh, again, SLES for SAP applications was available for customers to use from the very first day of the launch. By 2018, we had thousands of customers running SAP on AWS. And the most demanding customers continued to push. They wanted to go bigger all the time, bigger. So we launched the EC2 high memory instances. And we started off with the 6, 9, and 12 terabyte scale out to 50 terabyte scale up, sorry, and then 50 terabyte scale out. And these are the only offerings that run on bare metal, and they're integrated into software-defined cloud infrastructure. So those 12 terabytes were there um, in the early days of the high memory launch, and then we continued to work with them. So that was Skylake. That was the Skylake technology from Intel that it was based on, and then the Cascade Lake brought us 18 and 24 terabyte uh, instance types. And SUSE looked at what their customers were experiencing and determined that they didn't want customers to have to stay on these earlier instance types, even with their configurations. They wanted to make sure that the customers who were running stable systems today could take advantage of these larger instance capabilities without having to modify their base operating system. So they recertified their configurations to include higher memory support for these, specifically to accommodate these high memory instance types. So again, an example of how we've been working together over time. In 2019, we launched the only 100 terabyte B4 HANA offering, followed by the only 48 terabyte S4HANA offering. And both continue to be the only native cloud enabled options available today. We've launched dozens of AWS solution space partner offerings. The quick starts have grown. The S4HANA quick start is there. It's production ready. So if you're creating an environment, you can literally leverage the APN AWS quick starts um, for deploying SAP for HANA on SLES for SAP applications today. Um, and just remember that SAP is running lots of these solutions on AWS. You see up on this roadmap Concur as one of those, the SAP Cloud Platform. A lot of the industry solutions are running there, and we see the SAP Analytics Cloud is there, the HANA Cloud is there. Um, we're not just talking about a customer relationship. We're also talking about a, a, or a powerful partner relationship. So now, fast forward to today, we have more than 5,000 active customers running SAP on AWS, and over half of those have deployed SAP HANA-based solutions on AWS. So if you look at the pace of innovation and all the things that are coming together in sort of a different way, you'll see that all of these components are coming together in a way that run together with AWS and SUSE on the Amazon EC2 infrastructure as a service, but then they extend far beyond that into sort of core SAP cloud offerings, the Gov cloud offerings that are there, like NS2. Um, it can take advantage of You can take advantage of those to work with the public sector customers like the Navy on AWS Gov Cloud. Um, and there's just a lot of there's a lot of work being done here. It's overwhelming how much of that, and it crosses all industries, right? So IoT, machine learning for financials. Well, there's really no industry, no no industry area that you cannot touch, no line of business capability here that is not fully functional on AWS. Um, and we have been building business capabilities in all these areas along with our partners and like SAP and SUSE for years now. So earlier I talked a little bit about how SUSE looked at these instance types and they said we have these scale up options. We should never let our customers um, be in a position where they can't use them. So they looked at these uh, scale out options and they said, okay, we have customers who are running on the R5 today, and we want those R5 customers to be able to transition to an X1. So here we said we can transition our customer from the R5 to the X1 immediately, provided that they have the technology to move forward. Well, of course they did. For SLES for SAP 12, um, there was they were well within the margins of comfort for moving from one instance to the other. But when you move to these 12 terabyte instances, suddenly this jump to 18 required an entirely different support standard and uh, hadn't been tested before this time. So the profile for these high memory instances became the standard by which SUSE verified that they had support for these larger memory sizes on these earlier releases of the SUSE Linux for enterprise servers that were highly specialized for SLES. And that translated into general support for SLES for SLES 12. So most SAP customers are moving to a new model that's built on a combination of infrastructure applications, including SAP and AWS for extending and differentiation. The ultimate goal is to reduce the friction of delivering on the promise of digital enterprise, growing revenue while lowering operational overhead, right? Um, so customers and partners of SAP now acknowledge that over customization of SAP core ERP has made it difficult to connect and integrate with other applications. And you've heard this from you probably heard this if you're interested in this. You've probably heard this from some of the um, key SAP executives that uh, that it's difficult to connect and integrate with other applications and other data sources, and more difficult to adapt to changing business needs if you're making all of these modifications and customizing all of the component parts of your SAP ERP systems. So instead of customizing at the application level, customers are now they're doing what SAP calls keeping the core clean, and differentiating at a higher level by integrating with AWS services natively and otherwise. One of the things we emphasize at AWS is the concept of a one-way versus a two-way door. And a one-way decision is typically something that requires a lot more effort up front before you step through that door. When you step through, you're committed, and very often there are large consequences for failure. Um, if you think about this, like this picture shows, jumping out of an airplane, you need to check everything. You need to have a strong understanding, strategic expertise, and you need to understand what it is that you're walking into, because very often the consequences for failure are extreme. On the other hand, a two-way door decision allows for rapidly trying something, testing, and then reversing course and going back through the door with small exposure and low cost and low risk. So we've tried for a long time to break down the concept that all SAP projects need to be one-way doors. We want to enable SAP and partners and customers to more rapidly experiment and iterate on their SAP projects. And we frequently see SAP customers using AWS services in hours and then experimenting just in a relatively few days, and even being able to launch new technologies and new service capabilities in just weeks. So instead of spending weeks and months just acquiring and configuring and tweaking and verifying that all their component parts are functioning the way that they expect. And the promise of transformation provides a common platform for data-based insights. And so aggregating that in a secure fashion that is enabling, even at the edge, to make good decisions with real-time data um, need to happen. So many of the customers we meet have data centers full of valuable products, and they are full of valuable data, and they are also challenged to access that data in a useful way. So the producers of the data are deeply concerned about data quality and who has access to it and the security of that data, while the consumers are trying to drive company business results, and so they want to have more access to the data, and they are trying to deliver a more efficient um, uh, a result, but then they have this incredibly inefficient model for access. They're chasing down data sets. They're looking for how they're going to get updates to those data sets, and they don't really see it. Um, so that's an important thing for us to really explore, and customers who are building lots of heavily data-driven configurations are looking to the data lake as a way of ensuring that they can provide a larger set of their employees and their broader community access to their data in a responsible way. And we're finding that a lot of customers are choosing S3 as the most popular infrastructure for this kind of data lake today. So a lot of customers know exactly what it is that they're trying to do, and they have a plan for how they're going to migrate strategically their infrastructure, and how they're going to build their SAP journey. And then still others are trying to figure out what they're going to do, and they're looking for the kind of path that journey. And both sides of that coin are okay for us. We look forward to working with you no matter which side of that you fall on. So if you look at how customers choose to move along with AWS and SAP, um, they uh, they sometimes know exactly what it is they want to do, and sometimes they don't have a real strong idea of what it is they want to do, and sometimes they have a very simplified plan, and other times they have a very complex plan. So if you look at sort of customers who are not yet ready to move away from the database configurations that they have today, they just want to get onto AWS and realize some of the cost optimizations and find some of the agility that they were expecting across the infrastructure. Um, then we can help them by just taking what they have on premises today and rehosting that into the AWS platform. We've done this thousands of times, so it's a reliable approach. And there's some great tools out there for doing this. The EC2 image utils that the public cloud team at SUSE creates are a great component part of migrating your instances and virtual host disks, virtual hard disks to new hosts and replatforming onto AWS in the model that you expect. So uh, you can work with bring your own subscription where you want to, and you can replatform to an on-demand configuration using native tools for SLES right out of the box. um, Another use case that we see is where some customers who want to move to SAP HANA to get the performance gains right away are looking for a method for replatforming just that part, those essential components. And so we can help those customers um, migrate in ways to achieve the HANA performance gains that they are looking for. And still other customers already have like a really strong understanding of what it is that they want to do with the S4 HANA, and they're looking for a way to either rehost what they have on premises, or they're looking to do a full-scale digital enterprise transformation in the context of migrating to the S4 HANA uh, platform. And we have a lot of tools for making these modifications and making these moves. So we want to make sure that everyone has the right kind of migration strategy in place, and we have the tools and the immersion days and the workshops to help you get to that spot. So whatever the line of business, whatever it is that you're working to get done, we have proven paths for making that migration happen. So here's just some of the customers who have started in on this journey or are very advanced in the journey itself, and some of the things that they've said around their abilities and the increases in their effectiveness. And like I said, we have a lot of immersion days, we have a lot of workshops that customers can use, and we look forward to helping you get through those. So you can get started today. SUSE Linux for enterprise servers for SAP applications is available um, with an hourly charge. So if you want to just go and try one of these quick starts out and stand up an entire HANA configuration out of the box to review, you can do that. And I would encourage you to work with your account team so that you can do that in a very rapid fashion with a POC associated with it. Um, and other things that you can do there is you can take advantage of those same implementations with bring your own subscriptions from the community images that are exactly bit compatible with the releases that you see here. We have tools that are installed and a part of your configuration that you may not realize, like the AWS data provider, where you gain access to information in shared S3 buckets that the AWS team provides in a secure fashion through S3 endpoints. And then also we deliver a communication strategy that is distributed across the availability zones within a VPC so that multiple instances can take advantage of those at the same time. Um, and then also that data provider installs some other core components like the SAP operating system data collection utilities and the common information model provider, depending on your operating system, obviously, and then gives you access and makes some incredible some choices that are specific to the instances that you have by collecting the EC2 metadata that is associated with the instance and making determinations on how to configure swap and how to arrange and align the local disks that are associated. And they do that based upon the supported instance types that are available through the public information that the data provider collects. And then finally, I'd like to talk about, I talked a lot about the SAP HANA uh, um, Quick Start, but I didn't talk about the Netweaver on AWS Quick Start for application server environment for advanced business application programming. And this is one of the reasons I saved this to last is because what I really want you to take away from this is that the concepts here are very clear. The Quick Start automatically deploys an SAP NetWeaver application server environment. And you can not only use this out of the box to see how it works, you can also leverage the component parts of the reference architecture to understand how to build your own infrastructure as code. And building your own infrastructure as code means looking at some of the ways that these are put together, finding out how these component parts really do intermingle and what the requirements are around deploying the component parts that are going to help you um, provide a robust and agile kind of growth experience in the future. So this creates a number of resources that are associated, like the Amazon Elastic File System, a Route 53 zone that gives you the capability of communicating with the hosts that are on the network internally. That way, you're not having to modify the entire configuration when you change out one host. We swap a host. You can just repoint the internal DNS configuration to the new host, or that may happen automatically as a result of some associated scaling hooks. It gives you a deployment with an Elastic IP for communicating with Bastion hosts, and from those Bastion hosts, you can communicate directly with the SAP application server. You have a primary application server, and then it deploys a number of additional application servers that you can use to scale your solution. So just look at how this is put together, and I think you'll find that this is a great study and guidelines for doing this. And something else I'd like you to pay close attention to is that all this is available in GitHub, so you can look at some of the unique improvements that have been made, and you can see how those have tracked over time. So not only will you see how this emerged originally, but you'll also get to see some of the work that's being done to support this and some of the changes in the way that the configuration has been done over time. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for attending this session and spending some time with me and talking about how SAP uh, applications are built on top of AWS, and remind you um, that the fundamental component here is choosing an operating system that supports both the operating system platform, and or the infrastructure uh, that you are using, and is also versatile enough and close enough to the SAP community that it is going to provide you continued support. And I think in the case of SUSE, there's just no one who's moving at a faster pace for customer support in the SAP model, and uh, and they're providing that on AWS at the pace of innovation that we all expect as customers. Thank you very much. Hope to see you around the internet.